And we're live, back again. This is Lit Literature, part 2 of Pet Sematary. This is your host, the Demon, aka JP. And we've got the same crew here to continue our discussion in this beautiful double creepy header.
Yeah.
We have the captain from somewhere in the Mackinac burial grounds, I suspect.
Yeah, actually, right now there, Demon, I'm just sitting on my front porch, just cracked open a fresh beer. I got some Chesterfields over here, and I'm just going to watch the rod for a while.
Watch the rod.
And then we got Brett, the director.
I was going to say it, but I wanted you to. And we're also now joined by Church, my beautiful gold cat. Oh, that says Lannister gold, my bad.
And Tully. My dad.
Aww. Did you guys bury him up at the Pet Cemetery?
Yeah.
I just flushed mine down the toilet.
Oh, jeez.
So I gotta start this episode off with a few what ifs.
All right.
If you were Lewis and you brought the cat back, the second Elise said, I think I would be okay if Church died, I personally would go kill Church, bury him somewhere at not that burial ground, but somewhere else.
Rebury him.
And then just say, where did he go?
Yeah.
That was his original plan, I think.
Yeah,
And
probably.
I'd get rid of that creepy-ass smelly thing.
Yeah.
I don't know about you guys.
I like to think that I wouldn't have brought it up there to begin with. Although, I guess he was kind of tricked into it.
In a way, yeah, he kind of was.
He
really
was unknowingly led up there. He didn't know what was going to happen.
Honestly,
Judd didn't really explain it to him until they got there.
Yeah,
he
that's
thought,
And then once he's already there, he's kind of like, I might as well go through with it. I'm already here.
Yeah, exactly. He thought he was going to the pet cemetery.
Yeah, an actual just Pet Sematary.
And then they kept going, and he's like, what?
Yeah.
We're going? And then Judd goes right up over the dead, what do they call it?
The
frickin'
barrier.
Bed. Yeah, the barrier was like some gigantic dead tree.
Oh, yeah.
Or dead, what the hell do they call it? I can't remember now. You remember, Captain?
It was like a thicket. It was basically like a thicket. It was a bunch of like branches
Yeah.
and shit like that.
And
There was
whatever-
some quicksand around there too.
Whatever it was, it seemed to they seemed to hint at the fact that it's like linked to whatever power
Yeah.
wants you or doesn't want you to go up there.
You gotta go up. The only
Right.
way to get up is if it wants you going
If it
through.
wants you going through.
And really crazy.
Very
So,
creepy.
the deadfall or the dead brush, whatever they call it. But
Yeah, I don't remember.
Yeah.
I pictured like literally a gigantic dead kind of tree next to a strange cliff. I couldn't even tell you what I was picturing.
I kind of pictured, for some reason, like a briar patch.
deadfall. Yeah, it could be like
Yeah.
a
Like
briar
a bunch
patch.
I
of
pictured-
intertwining like branches that could engulf
I pictured the same thing, Brett.
Yeah?
Yeah, it was like it seemed like a thicket, like a little like really decrepit looking clearing in the forest
Yeah.
or something.
How did they do that in the movie?
Oh, yeah.
Captain.
In the movie, it was like a barren circle, like a big pentagram that was lined with stones, and it was almost like in a like a wasteland type setting because it was on a hilltop, and the whole ground was barren. It was like nothing but like cold, ground, almost like a cold desert earth, and there was a bunch of lined up rocks in a big like pentagram. So that's how they did it in the.
So they just
in the
crossed
movie.
the pentagram in the movie?
Yeah, and then they buried it in the pentagram. They built their cairn in the pentagrams.
Oh, so they didn't have to like cross a deadfall barrier or anything like that?
They did. There was like some logs that they had to cross over.
I see.
And at one point in the movie, Lewis falls down and kind of hurts himself a little bit. But they eventually climb up. They climb back up the fallen trees and get up to that
Oh, okay.
the burial ground.
So they just use some dead logs instead of this strange like deadfall or dead, yeah. Interesting.
right.
I did like the in the book the view of when they get up to the stairs carved out of the hill, the stone, and then he realizes that all the cairns they're literally in a spiral.
Right.
And he was like, "What would somebody see if they were like in a plane or a helicopter?"
Right.
Right.
It'd be pretty crazy.
Yeah, that was
That would
pretty
be
neat.
weird.
So I thought that was
It'd make me
cool.
want to go check it out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So let me get a little creepy here, and I don't know about you guys, but that last 3 hours, it's intense.
Of the audiobook, yeah.
Super intense. The rest is chill, but it's not necessarily chill. That's the wrong words, but
Yeah.
you know what I mean. The last 3 hours where it's really intense, and then
Yeah. I mean, he does a really good job in those beginning parts to pepper in the creepy and let you know that it's coming.
Yeah. And then when you get to the end and little fucking Gage comes back.
Yeah.
And, Lewis pulls his bag down and goes to bed with his bag next to him.
Yeah.
And, you had already had a dream with the scalpel and some other stuff thanks to Ellie.
Yeah.
And you get to this point where these little steps and you just
dude, I gotta tell you that whatever this creature is that lures people there and takes, or I don't know if he takes over their body, but like inhabits their soul or whatever it is, it's like he knows exactly what human men think of.
Yeah.
Like the worst thing you can say to a married human man is like, oh, your wife's fucking all these guys and she likes it better than you, and it's just like,
yeah.
That's the word. Like, how do you know that about us, you stupid demon?
Yeah.
So
it feels
dick.
it feels so unfair. And we certainly get plenty of evidence that every human who's buried up there somehow comes back similar. Like, they all have this innate evil, like, awareness of, they can see into people's souls and they can really, like, say the worst possible things to people.
If it's any indication, it seems like it's almost the same thing that comes back.
Right.
It likes what it's doing,
Yeah.
walking around in the living world and heckling people.
Right.
And then if you take it out early, it gets really pissed at
It's
you.
really mad.
Right.
I actually kind of had a theory, although it's kind of possibly destroyed because I thought that the one kid was more of a dick when he was inhabited or whatever. But it seems like the bigger the creature, the like meaner it
the more
gets
evil
almost.
it gets.
Or maybe not the bigger the creature, but it seems like really small pets. Because the bull, he said, was the only one that really went mean. It really went mean.
Right.
Yeah.
Some of them, they just kind of, like, they chill around. So it's almost like he uses the little pets as just a way to let people know this power's up there when you lose someone you really care about. You know?
Also to keep a good flow of people drawn,
getting connected to it. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Because Judd's dog came back and it was totally like kosher. I mean, you could kind of tell it was dead. Like, it didn't
wasn't
have
mean.
any personality.
It did corner
it wasn't
the mom,
mean.
though.
Oh, did it?
Corner the mom? Remember? It cornered
cornered
Judd's mom.
her?
Yeah. He said
don't remember that.
Backed his mom into a corner and she was freaking out and yelling for Judd. And then Judd came and took the dog out. And he says he wasn't even excited about the dog being back because the first thing he saw is that I brought the dog. The first thing he thought is I brought the dog back and it's cornering my mom.
Right. I took that
my
as I took that more just as the fact that it was almost like just like wandering around like a zombie, and like she instinctively was just like
fearful
of it, like a lot of people seem to be.
I had it.
Yeah.
That the words that he used was that the dog was aggressing.
Oh.
And he didn't use aggressing, but he's like it had my mom backed into the corner, and she was terrified, and it was cornering her, like it wouldn't let her move. And that's the feeling I got. That could be wrong, and maybe I just took it, or maybe it's just how I felt reading it. But
I agree with Brett. I don't think that the dog was being aggressive. Because I remember when the dad came home from work, Judd's dad came home from his job at the train yard or whatever, and he walks up on the front drive, and the dog comes out of the darkness, and it's walking towards him, and it's wagging its tail.
Right. Yeah.
Which means that it's happy, like the dog is happy.
Right.
But he said normally Spot would have run up and jumped on him and greeted him, but instead it just kind of walks up with its wagging tail.
Yeah.
Yeah, like it's kind of dead. You could tell it's kind of dead inside.
Yeah.
But there was no evil necessarily within it.
Right.
That's kind of the vibe that I got from Spot, anyway.
yeah, could be, and maybe it was my own interpretation.
And that's why I kind of wondered if this creature is actually inhabiting these things
Or it's just
that are
letting
of big enough size.
It's just letting it, or maybe it just
it's only interested in inhabiting creatures of larger size and power.
Maybe it needs the complexity of humans to kind of come out to its full potential, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
But
what if the bull just started being like, your wife told me she likes to fuck other guys?
Yeah, so that's the thing, right?
Damn, Ferdinand.
So that's calm down. You don't get a feel for the dog, like what the dog did outside of things, just being outside or whatever. But the cat did cat things, but it did aggressive cat things, killing.
Yeah, that's true.
The bull.
That's very true, Demon.
The bull might have been. Like, the dog might have been, okay, Spot, that's fine. He's running around. But who knows what Spot might have got into outside of, visibility. But the bull...
got mean.
Yeah, he got mean because what is he going to do? He's probably like a bull in heat at all time.
Yeah.
So he's just charging things.
Yeah.
So it seems like they become something. Maybe not evil, but just...
Something different, that's for sure, yeah.
And obviously, I don't know, all I could say is power or not, I would never want somebody that I knew and cared about to come back like Church came back.
Yeah, I know, right?
Yeah.
You could tell that power was maybe welding him, or the hope or the grief, or all of it together.
Yeah.
So.
And I think we're all three of us are in agreement. Where earlier you posed the question, Demon, where you said if... once Ellie said that she was okay with Churchill being dead, you would have just taken the cat out back and put an end to it.
Yeah,
I definitely would have done that too.
Yeah. I mean, that thing was just creepy and smelly, and all of them avoided it afterwards. Like,
nobody liked the cat anyway.
Its existence was like, they were like, I love Church, and now they're like, ugh.
Yeah, everybody just knew that it wasn't Church, even though they didn't know.
Yeah,
nobody
it just was gross.
I know.
Like in the end, I would have been like, well, and Lewis kept like, I own it now. I own these rats, and I own this bird, and I own. And I was like, well, I will just own the cat and go fucking off it.
Yeah,
and then go bury it up in the real Pet Sematary.
Yeah. Not
the other one, and then just own it, and then know to myself that Church got run over by a truck, and thank God, and poor Ellie, she'll cry when he ran away.
Yeah.
And then I'll have to have a conversation where, well, Church ran away. If he doesn't come back, then, he's going to have to live his life on his own, and he'll die one day.
Yeah.
And I have not said anything about me. It's kind of like Judd's dad. Judd's dad, when he found out the dog was back, he was not surprised, not angry. He just kind of went, give it a bath.
Yeah.
Like, they know.
Everybody knows.
They know. They just don't talk about it.
They don't talk about it. They're
and he
protective of it even.
And his
kids keep it up.
Yeah, his dad. Who brought you up there?
Yeah. Yeah.
That makes sense.
Which is also strange, though, because he kind of also talked about how his dad probably had never been up there, though.
Yeah, his dad hadn't been.
Yeah.
Because that's why the pole wasn't with him.
The pole didn't have him, so you kind of have to, catch it.
Interesting,
you have to go up there once, it seems.
Judd,
like an addiction, like you said.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. You got to try it once.
You got to try it. You got to have that peer pressure.
It's so interesting.
And that's what Judd is.
Yeah.
Judd's like the dick at the party that's passing you the joint going, come on, man, are you one of us?
Do it! Do it! It's funny because even he was justifying. Maybe it's old people just trying to keep secrets alive.
Yeah.
Maybe it's this. How many of us are alive still? He even makes all of those comments. And
he makes all these
seems so innocent,
also.
but it's the same thing. It's like, come on, man. It's just Coke.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Something like that.
I hate to have that feeling, but
never
you're right.
hurt anybody.
You know what I mean?
You're right, director. Yeah. And Judd got that same high from the Canuck who showed him and the drunk Canuck guy who showed him the burying ground. So
yeah. Afterwards,
it's like it's a chain of dependence and addiction.
For sure.
Oh man, my wine is super interesting.
So there was one thing I wanted to touch on very briefly, guys, and I'm sure because I'm a big horror fan, as you guys know.
Yes.
That's the second time I've said that. But,
we know you are, Captain. That's why we call you Dross, the clear villain.
But the whole story of Pet Sematary is based off of an old school English story that was written in 1902. And
Cool.
I'm sure you guys have heard of this story because Simpsons actually did an adaptation of this story.
Of course they did.
It's a short story called The Monkey's Paw. Have you guys ever heard of that one?
Yeah. I know this story.
Basically, just a super, super fast synopsis. A family...
They even reference it.
A family... It'll take, 30 seconds. A family... they have a distant acquaintance who is in the military in India. He comes back to visit the family in England, and he's like, oh, I got this monkey paw over there. It's supposed to give me 3 wishes. I tried it, and I don't like it. I wouldn't recommend using it, but I'm just going to leave it here. And then he leaves, and the family's like, well, okay, let's give it a try. And the dad's like, all right, I'm going to wish for 500 pounds, which is, I don't know, a decent amount of money. And then the next day... And then the next day, the son goes to work. He works in a factory. And rather than the son coming home at the end of the day, a person from the company comes home and he's like, there was an accident. Your son fell into the factory machine. He's dead. The company wants to give you a severance package of 500 pounds. And so the dad is like, oh my God. And then the next day, the mom wishes for the son to come back. And
the claw.
And yeah, exactly, Brett.
Counts
and the fingers
down.
go down, exactly. And so the mom wishes for the son to come back, and at the very end of the story, the father and the mother wake up in the middle of the night and they hear this rabid knocking on their door. And in like the middle of the night, and they know, like, oh my God, it's our son.
Yeah.
And so in the very last line of the story, she just cancels the third wish. The third wish is like, I wish the other wish never happened. And then that was the end of the story. Yeah. So Pet Sematary is almost like taking the story and taking it several steps further, where it's like, all right, let's see what happens
consequences
next.
are still there.
So I got 2 comments on that really quickly. One, I think he even references it in the book.
I think he does.
Briefly.
He does.
He says the quote. And then 2, the monkey's paw, and hearing the monkey's paw when I was young, like at camp or something like that. I think actually maybe my dad told it to me when we were camping. And the monkey's paw is the story that had me come up with the ultimate wish, which cannot be reversed on you. And that is, my wish is that everything worked out exactly how I want it to. Because the monkey's paw wouldn't be able to do shit against that. I don't think. I'm sure I would find a way. But
yes, that's awesome.
that is
then
really
it
good,
can't
Brett.
trick you by like, oh, here's a dark way for you to get your goal. Yeah,
that'd be funny because the monkey's paw would be there, and instead of the monkey's paw would be there like on the mantle, and instead of like counting down 1, it would just go like this.
Give you the middle finger, yeah.
It just start flicking me off. Like,
And then it would just and then it would just crumble to dust.
Yeah.
You
now
beat me.
Give him everything he wants.
Dick.
No, that's awesome.
Yeah.
I gotta say, really cool. And King, and I think that fits because King even says this is the what if story.
Right.
And I think that works. It's like the what if from his own experiences. It's the what if that last wish wasn't there, you know what I mean? What if we had to live with those consequences?
Right.
So, that's interesting. I knew about the story, but I didn't know all about that. So I do appreciate that, Captain. That
it's awesome. A really cool story.
Yeah.
It's really
Very
interesting.
Cool. Yeah.
And it really makes you like same as this one. It's like be careful what you ask for, be careful what you wish for, because I mean that's like such an old phrase. Be careful what you wish for, because you just might get it.
And this one is even crazier because it's like not only what you wish for, but legitimately you are falling into your own self-justification trap, and you are doing.
Yeah.
You are not just wishing.
Yeah.
You're taking it a step further.
Yeah, that's true.
Right.
He's not just wishing for his son back. He's actually taking
an active role in it.
Yeah.
And an active role that he knows for certain. Well, maybe not for certain. He does justify it to himself, but that he knows deep down is not going to end well.
Yeah.
And it's so selfish because, like, it's not going to be, even if it is his son in there, it's going to be like a trapped version of him.
Yeah.
Because it's not like, even if Church is still in that brain somewhere, it's not Church that's outward. So it's almost like you're stuck.
Yeah.
It's not good for his son, and it's definitely not good for them.
That scene, I was like so rooting for Rachel.
Yeah.
She's driving back, and I'm just like, I either don't want her to come back at all, or I thought
she was gonna save the day.
I thought so too. No, man.
But no.
I'm not gonna lie. I don't even know. I mean, obviously, I've seen all of his movies, so I guess that's kind of why I know. But I don't even know Stephen King's writing all that much. I want to read a lot more now.
Man.
Yeah.
Dude, there wasn't 1 second that I thought she was gonna get there and help him. I was like, this nothing's. She's either gonna die or not make it. Best case scenario.
That's what I'm saying. Like, I was either like, oh, she better get there fast, and then as like things started to go wrong, I'm like, just don't get there.
Yeah.
Don't get there.
Just stay at that Holiday Inn.
Go stay. Go to bed. Don't let anybody fix it. But it was almost like it just stalled her.
Yeah.
And then it's like, no, come on.
Yeah, now you've got to come.
Now that your demon son is
dead.
Now that your demon son is running around with a scalpel, sure, now you can make it up here.
Dude, then I was just like, oh, when she got there and she was going up there, I'm like, just be strong. Just be strong. Oh, it's not Zelda, it's my son.
Oh, God, yeah. And on that same point, the scene the chapter right before that, because Judd and Rachel die in back-to-back chapters.
Yes.
So that both of that happened so fast. That escalated so quickly. And when Judd first confronted little Gage, and Gage like starts telling him all this evil stuff, like Gage is super, super possessed.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, dude, come on, old man. Like, you can do this.
Yes.
Like, grab that scalpel and take it away from him. And
just a little kid, man.
Yeah. And, like, that same inner monologue was going through Judd's head as he was in that scene.
Yeah.
And you're just like, come on, dude, do it.
It's just a little kid.
It just doesn't happen. And he just
You burned this motherfucker once.
Of course, he's been sleeping, he's old, he gets up, he's like rickety, and then he's like, whoa, there's something through my hand.
Dude, I remember you talked about how both Judd and then the wife happened, Rachel happened so quickly.
Yeah.
I was audio booking while working out, and like I did a few like pull-ups, and all of a sudden it's like, Lewis looked back at the dead corpse of his wife. I'm like, wait, when did she fucking die? I was like, I like literally blanked out for maybe like 15 seconds while I was doing like pull-ups.
They don't, because basically they don't say it, but what happens is she comes up and she sees this little thing with a mossy suit, and she thinks it's Zelda, and then it's like, she realizes it's Gage.
It's Gage,
She's like, Gage, and he's like, Mommy, guess what I have? His hand's behind his back.
He's got like something in his hand.
His hand is behind his back, hiding, of course, the scalpel. And then you're like, oh no. And then it cuts to Lewis waking up. And then even Lewis in his inner monologue is like, the phone's ringing, and he's like, I don't want to go down this. I don't want to answer this.
Yeah.
I don't want to know this. I just don't want to know. And then he answers it as he sees the muddy footsteps.
Yeah.
And he's like, oh God.
Dude, so the first time that I listened to it, I was like, wait, how the hell did he kill her? Is he getting possessed somehow? I was like so confused. And then I went back and I'm like, oh, okay, that makes a little bit more sense.
Oh,
God damn it, Gage.
Yep.
Gage. I knew that kid was trouble from the beginning.
Yeah. I would like to keep Gage out of this because he did nothing. Gage did nothing but get run over by a truck and fly a kite. And
the decision was all on his father's part.
It was.
So, and there was even a very, very fleeting moment where Lewis administers like a dose of morphine into his son. Yeah. And the son takes he's chasing his own dad with the scalpel, and he takes a couple of steps, and then he drops the scalpel, and he takes a couple more steps, and he's like, whoa, and he gets dizzy, and then he like takes a couple more steps, and then he looks at his dad one last time, and he's like, Daddy, and then he falls down, and it's like, oh my God, in that 1 second, like,
one moment,
Gage returned to himself,
and
then died.
that scene alone creeps me out so much because then you're wondering, am I trapping my son in something?
That's what I'm saying. I think he is.
Like Church.
I think they're in there.
Trapped.
Yeah.
Like if Gage is kind of still linked in a way to his body and being possessed, and then maybe he's not really there, but in that moment,
it's that scene that made me believe that, which kind of made me believe about like how, I mean, he may not know it, but how selfish that act is, where you're basically imprisoning this thing that you supposedly love just to have a demon or whatever take over its body and pretend to be him,
or at best case an aimless
whatever. Yeah.
Like nothing. I just and that's actually why and the whole point of the book is Stephen King's almost saying like that's natural.
Yeah.
But also taking it a step further is it's not only natural, but
it's
what
it's natural until it happens to you,
and then it's terrible.
And then you can especially when you're a doctor, of course you have to deal with it every day. If it affected you the way that it affects normal people, you'd go insane. So he has to tell himself, oh, this is just a part of life. This is natural. This is normal. But as soon as it happens to you, there's nothing to prepare you for that.
Well, he has a great line about it where he's like, he deals with, this disease and that disease all day long, but he'll still be like, what? It happened to my kid? Happened to his kid. He touches on a lot of really just real
topics and ideas,
Yeah.
Like you said,
all of his characters felt so real to me. Like, just awesome. Great job, Stephen King.
Yep.
Cheers.
Cheers. Yeah, good job.
That being said, I do have one criticism for the story. And I don't know.
Oh, awesome. I'm pumped about this because I know a little bit of backstory about this. So
Okay.
I'm really pumped.
All right, what is it?
So the one criticism that I have for this whole story, I don't know that you do know anything about this, Steven, but I'll get into it and you can confirm.
Oh, I don't know about your particular criticism.
Oh, okay.
I just I have a theory about. I said something similar, which I'll get into after you.
Okay. Gotcha. So kind of talking about what we were saying before, I love this story. It's incredibly. It felt so real. I thought that Stephen King did such a good job of creating believable characters, and the amount of emotional pain and stress that was touched on in this book was just unbelievably. It felt so real. But there was one thing that did not feel real to me in a very, very strong way, and that centered around the character of Zelda. Zelda herself, in the horror genre, she's like the perfect character for like the malevolent specter who's coming back to get her revenge on you.
Yes.
However, when I was reading the section of Rachel where Rachel was giving her backstory of her sister, there was one thing that felt really fake to me. And when Rachel's talking about Zelda, she's saying that her sister Zelda has spinal meningitis, which is a real thing, which is a horrible condition where the spine will just continue to curl, and it's causes excruciating pain to people. And when a lot of people go through those sick periods of sickness and agony in their life, they can definitely become like angry and spiteful towards people who, they're caregivers or people who are helping them, members of their own family. But one thing that's really, really glossed over in that section is that right from the get-go, Zelda is described as a monster. Yes. And there's no mention whatsoever from the Goldmans, Rachel's parents, or from Rachel herself, where there was ever a time where they viewed her as a member of the family. She's in the book, she's always a monster. And it's like, well, what about the times where she was into The Wizard of Oz and like she was a person who like had hopes and dreams and you wanted to love her and you wanted her to heal and you wanted to support her. And like none of that is in the story at all. It's like it's really, really glossed over, and it felt fake to me.
I have a comment on that, and I was thinking about that myself. It's a different shortcoming than I was going to mention, but it's one that I thought about.
Yeah.
And the reason I thought about it is Stephen King usually goes very deep on the things that I guess it does link, okay? Mm-hmm. Stephen King usually goes very deep on the things that he's hitting on in a book. And in this one, I felt that was a moment that was glossed over for the purpose of the book.
Right.
And the reason for that, which maybe is why you're mentioning that, is fake. Mm-hmm. First of all, I don't agree, although Lewis justifies it, like, a lot of times there's examples of people on their deathbed, like, dealing with this that just turn very evil, like, and that could happen depending on the situation and depending on the person, but also a lot of it depends on
the caregivers
around you,
right?
The caregivers,
right?
And I think that if the circumstances were different, and I could be totally wrong, maybe it was just put in there, and either way, I think that what that was hinting at is another fault of the Goldmans. Mm-hmm. I think that they were legitimately implying, and Rachel herself had the guilt of it, even though she didn't fully understand it at 8 years old, that the parents just locked her up in this back room.
Right.
And she was like a gargoyle or a gremlin, and it didn't match their sophisticated lifestyle. Right. And there was a part there that if it was another Stephen King book, he might have dived into and explained how she was versus how she wasn't. The book that's coming to my mind is is it The Secret Garden or something like that? This death kid that's really in this back room hiding by himself, but even that kid has loving parents. Anyway, the point I'm trying to make is, as it turns out, Stephen King wrote this book once. He wrote a draft, and he was sick of it, scared of it because of his mental state, put it in a drawer, and he sold it because he was trying to leave his publisher.
Yeah, he just had to fulfill his contract.
He just needed to fulfill his contract, and his wife's like, this one's good enough, just give it to him to publish. So he's like, I never was going to publish it. It was too much for me. Yeah. So he published it. I almost wonder, and this is a theory, which we talked about a little bit, and the theory is that he didn't get his Stephen King chance to go back and
refine
it a refined gloss over.
Right.
Because even I said that compared to some of his other works, it's not to the same level. That's my opinion. Not to say that it was bad. No. That's a totally different statement altogether. I do not say that it's bad. I just mean usually he catches those things. And I agree with the statement that you made. It's like they just hit it, and then they just made her a monster, and it was good for the story to add this little thing. Yeah,
it's like nobody was giving Zelda the TLC that she needed. Maybe she just needed a kiss on the forehead, and she wouldn't have been a malevolent spirit. Her family just should have treated her like a member of the family.
In a traditional Stephen King sense, he would have she would have been that way for the story. But he would have gone back and given her
some kind
of reason to be that way.
Right.
He would have given that little, I don't know, that moment.
And I don't know. I kind of felt like we were given the reason that she was that way. People that are getting sick can be like that. I think it's I don't know. I think it's a little weird to go in and say, oh, I think he should have written her different. Well, this is
no.
This is what the
not
character
write her
was.
Different.
Yeah,
not write her different. That's
what the character was. This is what the situation was. This is how they treated her.
No, but that's not what we're saying. We're not saying write her different. We're saying go in and show. Because what we're saying is
even that go in and show why.
Yeah. Show the moments where she was normal and the progression.
But why? The story's not about her.
But that's where I think that Stephen King would normally hit that, because I think it had to do with Zelda getting locked in the back as some disease, feeling that way, and her parents treating her that way. But the whole point of
that scene is literally to show us why, what's her name? The sister.
Rachel. Why Rachel she's like such a malevolent figure.
A bad association with that time.
It has
nothing to do with Zelda. Almost at all.
But I think that in a book, in a film, you probably don't. But in a book, you can go there. And he just didn't. And normally he does. I think normally he gives you that insight.
Yeah.
That's just my opinion.
Maybe.
Could be.
I didn't really feel too much lacking there. I felt like it was fine. I feel like it accomplished exactly what I wanted to know from that scene. Like, to me, the oh crap kind of feeling of her having to deal with her sister, and like how she was like feeling such guilt about like being happy about the fact that she died.
It needs to be there. It needs to be there. Zelda's character, I don't think she would change at all.
I feel like everything happened that needed to happen.
I think the captain wanted some deep moment of Zelda there, and in a novel, I think you can do that, and I think King would have normally done that, and I could be wrong, but I think that Zelda did serve her purpose in the story, and also it's just that moment could have been there.
Yeah, I mean, maybe if I go through and read it again with it in my mind of would I have enjoyed more, maybe I'll feel differently, but like looking back on it, I don't see a whole need for it. I think that, I don't know.
Well, you have an argument there that's realistic, because it's even like in an adaptation or in any kind of story, there are times where you got to think, I can't tell everyone's story,
Right.
But at the same time, I do feel there could have been a little bit of Zelda as a human in there, not just a monster. But
I mean, I don't
think it damaged the story.
The only time that we see her is when she was in that state, though. It's not like we don't see her earlier, and I don't see any reason to see her earlier.
Well, that's true, because Rachel no longer talks. I think we lost the captain. Hopefully he's
okay.
Recording, but we'll get his feedback when he's in there. But I think that Rachel the character, she doesn't talk about Zelda at all.
Right.
Not the good times, because of the bad times. She just tries not to think about Zelda. So in that sense, I think maybe it does make sense.
I mean, to me that almost seems like the point.
Yeah.
Like it's almost like she's carrying on this guilt because even in the moment she couldn't like really remember the good times. She was just so consumed by these bad times. Like we got way more into her head.
Yeah.
Like being constantly in this room, having to take care of her, her parents kind of like just leaving her and not really caring for her properly.
Yeah.
And at a certain point, she probably even started to see her as not her sister. It's like, this is just a different person. She's gone already, It's like church.
Yeah.
It's like all the people that come later, It's almost like she already died and has been resurrected and is this different thing in front of her,
Well, so here's what I recommend. I just got a hold of the captain. He's got a quick technical difficulty. So why don't we take a quick break for a refill and get back to an episode?
Sure.
All right, folks. We are going to continue this discussion on Rachel and Zelda and zombies. But we will take a quick refill and we'll see you in a minute. Cheers.
Cheers.
Thanks again for joining us for this episode of Lit Literature. If you liked us, please check out our social media at Lit Literature 1 at Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. And don't hesitate to join in on the conversation. We appreciate the conversation, the questions, book recommendations, anything of that sort, join in right on the social media websites. And don't forget to check us out at our website, litliterature.com, and our upcoming projects, though there aren't many now besides Lit Literature, you can find at lyket.net, Lyket. We do have a Patreon account, but if you truly want to support us, please like and share. Cheers.